Welcome to Live, Work, Stay with Billy Kay. Today I have with me former City Councilman Mike Sutton, and who chaired the countywide Capital Sales Tax Commission. On the ballot November 8th will be the question of whether or not the citizens of Beaufort would support a temporary penny sales tax to pay for certain infrastructure items. I thought it would be very helpful to have Mike tell us a little bit about the history of the commission and how you came upon the recommendations, and time permitting, why it's so important.
Sure. Well, it's a lot of information to present, but first of all, thank you for letting me come in today, and maybe we can get some word out about what's transpired with the capital project sales tax. First of all, Billy, the sales tax project is not new to Beaufort County. It's been done several times. This round was done with 5 commission members that were selected countywide, and representation from all the municipalities in the county. So each entity, each area had representation to sit on the board. We were all basically citizens at large, no elected positions, though either had served before. We were given a task by county council, and the task was to try to come up with a list of projects for capital improvement, penny sales tax, that equal no more than $120 million and would span approximately 4 years of a collection period. That was our marching orders, and there were some other concepts that the county council put together, and those were things about what type of projects, and they explained to the commission what would fit, what wouldn't fit, and some ideas, the things that...
last year when they considered it, but aborted their effort to put it on the ballot, we're talking about twice as much money.
Right. I think, looking back, there were some good citizens who sat on that board as well and tried to do the same thing. I don't think the perimeters were tightened enough to allow them to focus solely on an end product that might be sellable.
And on needs.
And on needs. And so I was selected as chair of the commission, was happy to do that job, and we set a task to actually try to accomplish the goal that county council set, and that's focusing on $120 million based on a $30 million a year collection over a 4-year period. And if we could do that, we'd be successful, we think, in our job. So since that period, we have a list. It actually made it to the newspaper for the first printing. It has to be for the ballot question, so we've got that far with it. County council approved our list in a unanimous vote. And now it'll be up to the voters to decide on what capital infrastructure they would support through a penny.
Sure. Well, no one likes an extra tax. I don't, you don't. Unfortunately, we've gotten to the point, however, as the state has capped what local governments can raise, and not taking care of significant state-owned infrastructure. We've been forced into this. I remember the first one on Highway 170. I was in the state legislature at the time, and I voted against it. And I said we're going to get addicted to this kind of money, and the state's going to be let off the hook. Voted against it. The second time, they made some very compelling arguments about safety. And I said, okay, so much for principle. We've got to take care of the safety needs.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that we can put our head in the sand and believe that the state's going to pull out some silver bullets and start doing some of this important work. It's not happened. It didn't happen 8 years I was on council. You've been mayor for 8 years now?
8 years.
8 years.
Almost.
So, I think we both realize fully that it's not going to happen in a process through state governance. It's going to have at a local level, and this is really a local question. And it's interesting. Just 46, 47 counties in the state of South Carolina. As of 2014, there's 14 counties using a capital improvement sales tax, and that's just on that time period. It comes and goes and fluctuates with the election cycle, but we have some good projects. Now, I'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about those. First of all, the commission took a whole range of projects. There was $160 million worth of projects that were presented to the commission. We had to start with that and try to focus on that 120 million mark and try to figure that out. So we broke the projects into needs, and we asked each of the applicants, and there were 9 different entities that applied. We asked them to please make a priority list of what you want. So if you had 5 things on the list, we want you to tell us what is your number 1 item. And so we took that, we got that information in the first or second meeting we held. And then we started focusing deeper onto those, and we broke those into areas of public safety, which we thought was number one. Environmental impact would be another one. Economic development, and then quality of life. And those are the 4 criteria that seemed to stick with us during the entire chalkboard session of study. So we took the $160 million, went through a needs and a wants category, and then a list we call other, and then we started focusing real narrowly into the other 4 topic subgroups. So if it was a public safety item, it was the number 1 priority. It obviously went to the list that we presented. And then if it was environmental impact and had it was on the needs list, it obviously went over there. So we did all what we thought were needs, and then we went to the want list and did the same thing. And then we took some other applicants, things that just didn't seem to fit, and we tried to cull through those. So we achieved that.
Let's talk about safety.
Okay.
I think from our point of view, obviously, for local government's point of view, safety is our number 1.
Sure. It is, and
so
we were able to, 37% of the asking of the $120 million is in the category of safety. And those are things that we've heard before and we've heard over and over citizens. And some examples are the 278 highway traffic safety improvements. We've heard about that for years. The voters supported the referendum for transportation tax in the past. That job's not done. And it impacts mostly Bluffton, Hilton Head area, but it has an impact on all of us.
Sure.
But so some 278 projects are in there, and then there's one that came in that we thought was real important. And there's actually all of them are important that made the list. But the sheriff's department in a public safety realm asked for communication funding for some radio and technology that's equipment that's going to expire soon. Contracts with their provider and other reasons that equipment is dated, needs to be changed out. And we have an opportunity to do that.
It's not just for the sheriff's department.
And
it'll be radios for local police. So
that's right.
All public safety people will finally have radios that work together.
That's right. The citizens probably don't see this and would never have a reason to ask, but when the radio clicks to 911 and it goes out to EMS or fire or sheriff or police in a jurisdiction, it's on the same radio band. And those departments have to be able to communicate to each other, and they do. And having been a sheriff's deputy, I understand fully the impact of that, of not being able to communicate with the other entities.
Sure.
So what the important point is, I think, is that the sheriff is asking for it. He understands if a penny doesn't pass, that it'll still be funded. But if we go that route, then there will be a budget change for the different areas coming. And so it's going to be paid for one way or another.
Sure.
But the penny sales tax is an opportunity to have outside people coming through help pay for that. 40% is an estimate, about 40% of the penny sales tax comes from people visiting. And
40%.
And that's a lot better than having, you and I pay 100% of that communication cost.
So of the 120 million, about 60 million or 50 million is coming from visitors.
From visitors, people who are here who won't even question the penny, who would drive through our community, love it, and spend the money, and enjoy their stay and leave, and never even dream that they're paying for those type entities.
Let's talk. We have a couple of other safety projects.
We do. We have in the public safety realm. I'm going to go down the list here. We have some roadway improvements that Jenkins Island and Windmill Harbor on Hilton Head area.
That's a terrible intersection.
It's a real tough intersection for those folks to come and go from their area, where they live over there. And it's been studied for years. And these are not new projects. These are projects that had been on the books and with no funding stream, and the state will not fund them at this point. So the Windmill Harbor improvements, the Pinckney Island Road improvements, very similar. And the one I think is the most important one, is we've talked about for years, is safe routes to schools. And that's a whole list of paths and connectors that get you off the main roadways. They're between the school systems and the neighborhoods, and that's countywide. That's not just in Hilton Head or Bluffton.
So early in the morning when it's still dark in the winter, we won't be driving down the roads and have a kid walking on the side of the road.
That's right. And being the mayor of Beaufort, obviously you're interested in what's happening here, but we have some connectors here that would be hugely important. Old Salem Road, for example, is on the list, and that would connect sidewalks from 21 into the neighborhoods out there and get those kids off the shoulder and into a safe zone. So that's important. But those are very important projects. One that also is hugely important and impacts all the taxpayers is the EMS facility and EMS service. They did a study years ago when I was on council about the quality of the EMS service provision, how that was provided and what the needs were. And one of the top things that came out was that we need more EMS facilities in different locations to strategically provide that service. So on the list is a $6 million ask to help build those centers that were identified in that study.
Putting EMS closer to the people.
That's right. Put them in areas where the response times can be decreased so that it helps with the public safety around. The other ones that you don't see of, but you don't want to really know about, is detention center improvements. If you think about it, we have to keep the inmates safe, and we have to keep the people working there in the jail safe. And the sheriff's department needs $1 million worth of upgrades in the current detention center, and that's something we can fund with 40% helping us from visitors, and/or we can ask the taxpayers to pay for it, in another way down the road. And so it's a good ask.
Well, those are our safety needs. We're hitting our time barrier.
Okay.
But I want to thank you, and maybe we'll do another show between now and the election.
Great.
Because we've really talked about needs, we've talked about public safety, which really should be the biggest driver of this. Everybody's not going to like everything on the list.
That's right.
There are going to be petty jealousies that he got this and we got that. The bottom line is, I think that with your commission of 5 people, you spread it out pretty evenly, again, with the priorities of public safety.
Right.
As first. So let's make a date.
Let's do it. We have some exciting things. I would love to talk to you more about some of the economic development projects that could be funded that might help us with some of the issues that Hilton Head and Bluffton's faces now with workforce. Things that they're not tuned in about, I don't think yet, that they should know.
We've got a date in October.
Okay, we'll do it.
Thank you for being with me.
Thanks, Billy. Good to
Sure.
see you.